Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I'm your Fleet Admiral and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew this side of a sentient, bioneural gel pack. I thought I was going to say something about lizard babies there, but I didn't read my own outline and I forgot. So yes, a sentient bioneural gel pack. Captain Giraffe is going to be here later. She's going to show up at some point, beam in. She is, I think, at work, but she will be here soon-ish, I think. Sometime. And then Commander MC, you are here on our screen wondering how the Fairhaven program went so horribly wrong.
It's when you delete the wife. It's never goes well.
The wife. Everybody is already commenting on your Moopsy. It is amazing. Amazing. Moopsy. I'm really ashamed of myself. I should have put a soundbite on the soundboard and I didn't do it. Oh, well. Also joining us on our view screen tonight is our dear friend, Nari Ellie from The Legal Geeks. Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great now that I'm here. I'm really excited to be back.
Yay. And I said to you off mic, I'll say to you again on the show, thank you for doing this extremely short notice. I kept meaning to ask you, and then like a million things came up, and I think it was like 2 days ago. I'm like, want to do the show? You're like, yeah, let's do it. Tuvix, let's go. So... before we do this, we will start with what we say every single week until the strikes are resolved. This episode of Strange New Pod was recorded and live streamed during the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. And without the amazing writers and actors currently on strike who create all the content that we love and review on this podcast every single week, it wouldn't exist. So please, let's get a deal done. Let's pay our writers. Let's say fuck you to AI. Because it doesn't have childhood trauma, as we say every single week. Pay your writers. Let's go. Let's get a deal done. Pay your actors. Yeah. So, with that being said, this week, Lower Decks is back. Lower Decks was here last week, too, when we did our Season 3 review. That was fun. But we're back with a brand new season and an extra pip, right? I think I actually have that pip right here, that Lieutenant Junior grade pip. It's here. I have it. I'm not going to put it on because no one needs to see that. First 2 episodes of season 4. So we got a double header, which is awesome. Tuvix, and that's 2, the number Vix. For anybody that didn't pick that up, I'm sure you all did. I don't know. And then I think one of the best Lower Decks episode titles ever. I have no bones, yet I must flee. I can't. I love it. In the season premiere, what happens when the crew go on board Voyager and escort it to Earth, the museum piece? A lot of bad things go down. It's now a museum. How does the entire Cerritos crew, almost entire Cerritos crew, get Tuvixed? And then promotions all around. We're going to talk about that. And then we go into No Bones, right? Why is Mariner self-sabotaging again? We talk about this every single season. And then what happens when Rutherford, after getting left behind in the promotions, he goes head-to-head with, it's like that Seinfeld, Jerry and Newman. It's very much like that moment. I love that. Where are our Moopsy plushies, Paramount? That's right, they're on MC's shoulder. She made one before you guys did.
Yeah.
Made one before you guys did.
Fuck Paramount. I'll take care of it.
She'll take care of it. Get your orders in. Don't get sued. That would be bad. No, that Moopsy is freaking adorable. Before we do that, we have to thank our Ready Room level patrons and above. You guys freaking rock. We've been rotating it, and we've had such a crazy list of where our other hosts are. Hawk is off tonight. And then Eric is at rehearsal because we said last week he's doing his show. So I'm going to read the patrons because I don't get to do it very often, and I love you guys. So thank you so much to Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Hui, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, Fernanda Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Alan Davis, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Julian should dye his hair purple, Maggie Light, Spapple, and Chris, I'm sorry if I didn't update these. I didn't go in and look today, so apologies. I'll get them next week. Wayne Fritz, Scone of Arc, Sean, Jay Howard, Anna Yerdadon, Mahalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Rob Sampson, Joshua Lewis, David Willett, By the way, a little bit of a surprise coming tomorrow from David Willett. You'll see what that is. That's going to be fun. Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Joshua Miller, Adam Sanders, Aris Spengian, Lanky Guy, Cynthia Markey, Aaron Walke, Carl, Angoli, Michael Kwan, TJ, Mayor, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, The Chief, Ernesto Castagna, Sedano 317, Deborah Hussey, Three Fry Short Podcast, Kat Tippe, Malcolm Reed, Sean Manning, Congressional Baseball Fan, Chris Waterman, RHCB, and Martin Simpson. And as always, a big thank you to our executive producers, Commander Chris, Simon Sager, and the Chief, Ernesto Castagna. You did change them, Chris. I'm sorry. Yes, I did complain about dyeing my hair because...
And also Chris Waterman. You need to move Ernesto to the end of the list of executive producers because you always want to end on him.
I do. I really do. Did I do that again?
You did.
Oh,
Yes.
so and Chris Waterman. I really do need to switch those up. There we go. Sorry about that. You guys all freaking rock. Thank you for all you do. You keep the lights on. You keep the warp core thrumming. You keep our deflector, keeping asteroids from hitting our ship. I'm going to stop making all of the analogies now. Let's get into some quick news. We have our Lower Decks Blu-ray Season 3 giveaway. I teased everyone, guys, last night on the Discord. I was so mean. I went, so you guys want to know who won the Blu-ray, right? And they're like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, oh, good, you're going to have to watch the pod live tomorrow. Because I'm an asshole. So let's do that very quickly. I have the wheel all drawn up to go. We're going to do this live. We're going to spin it. I should have a drum roll. I don't. Okay, so this is wild. We have a repeat winner. Congratulations, Jay Woodman, who won Strange New World Season 1 last time, just won Lower Decks Season 3 on Blu-ray. That's amazing. Congratulations. Yay.
The
Love
wheel
it.
must be rigged.
I was going to say, or
wheel-
proof that it's truly random.
Yep. It is random. That is wild. So congratulations to you. That's so cool. And then for everybody else that joined us for our watch-alongs during the past 10 days, we will be getting your stickers very soon. So yes. MC, what are we doing? We have another giveaway that we're going to be doing for the Lower Deck season this year.
I vaguely have an idea of what it is. It is the USS Cerritos Yosemite shuttle made by Eagle Moss.
Yeah, made by Eagle Moss. It was never released.
Yes. And we will be doing a giveaway for it during the reviews of Lower Decks.
And we're going to do like a code word. We're going to do a secret code word.
Rather than trivia, we'll just do a code word.
Yep.
It will be somewhere in this broadcast. So listen up for it.
Yep. And just one email to us will enter you in to win it. So you don't need to enter multiple weeks. Just get your entry in now. But I don't know if we're going to think about if you email every week, if there'll be a multiplier. That might be a nice little incentive to get the emails in. But we'll talk about it after. Happy hour. We put a poll up. I didn't read the results. It's either going to be tomorrow or Saturday. We'll let you know in the Patreon chat. Nari, I'm going to have you read a piece of news because I'm doing all the talking and someone else needs to change it up. So what do we have coming up next week on the show?
Sometime next week, we are going to have Picard Season 3 final season review. Stay tuned as we lock down a date within that week.
yes, we are going to lock down a date. We haven't figured that out yet, but we are doing it. We've been starting our watch along for that. And then for whatever reason, MC, my outline did not print out with your bit of news.
Well, then I can deliver it myself.
Please.
So tomorrow, as most Star Trek fans know, is Star Trek Day, which is a very nice thing. But I think more importantly is that there is a special WGA and SAG-AFTRA United We Trek picket lines at Paramount, both in Los Angeles and New York tomorrow, which is Friday the 8th. fans are welcome to join the picket line to show their support for everyone. So check that out if you're in Los Angeles or New York. The Los Angeles and New York away teams will have details about that. And if you just look up the United We Trek on Twitter or whatever social media, you should be able to find information.
Yep, sounds good. I think a few people that we know are going. I believe Giraffe is going to go. We could ask her when she comes on the show. So that's awesome. Make sure you wear some socks and shoes. Like, don't go out picketing in flip flops. Not a good idea. The reason I bring up socks is this is a horrible segue, but I had to come up with one. Star Trek socks. Did you know that Heroes and Villains makes Star Trek socks, and they're awesome? So you can get these on Heroes and Villains, right? You could put them on your feet. You could do a puppet show with them and pretend to be Kirk and Spock or Jean-Luc, right? It comes in science. It comes in gold, Command Gold and Command Red. You could do that. Or you could be like Bold Boimler and go hide out in a Jeffries tube and do like a little show with your sock puppets. It would be great. How do you get these? You go on heroesandvillains.com, use our special code STRANGE to get 20% off your first order. Matt Harker, I am so getting those. As well you should, sir.
I am too.
Yeah, there you go. And because I said sock puppets, I might even do a sock puppet TikTok for you guys. So
you better.
I better. With some.
If you don't, I'm gonna quit. You won't have time to fire me.
Damn it. Okay. All right. All right. I think that's it. We have no Strange Loop tonight. We have a double premiere to review, which means it is time for.
Ooh, this is the new shuttle with the blast shield. Yeah. The blast shield is the blast shield. And it comes down and it goes up. Blast shield.
That's right. We are getting right into Lower Deck Season 4. We are going to start with Tuvix. Obviously, that is the season premiere. And our order will go Nari, MC, then followed by myself. And I'm just going to start with what we're all thinking. Oh, my God, Voyager, just like Mariner did on the bridge. And Carol even flashed her a little smile. It was so adorable. Let's have a very brief chat about the cold open. Reintroduced to our crew again, right? Promotions are coming up. Boims is on holodeck waste removal. T'Lyn is part of the gang now and has no problem telling Boims that he's going to stank. You gotta love Vulcan honesty. And then Voyager. Mariner freaks out. The Voyager theme plays. By the way, Chris Westlake, who does the music, said specifically, he's like, I was so excited because they didn't just like snatch it and put it in. They recomposed it, and that's like a new recording of the Voyager theme, which is just, oh, yeah. What did we think about the cold open, guys? Nari, start us off.
I thought it was a really great start to the new season. As always with Lower Decks, the jokes came in hot. They came in fast. Like holodeck waste removal. Oh my God. Because in case anyone hasn't figured that out, like the holodeck removes all the stuff that the holodeck makes. So that wasn't, but that was a really, it's exactly what Lower Decks is about. It's about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And if you've got a holodeck in which people are being people, that's going to be
Listen, we know what Shax and Tana doing there. Like, no,
Yeah, we definitely do now. And of course, the Voyager reveal, absolutely wonderful. Hit me right in the feels. Voyager is and remains one of my very favorite. I mean, it's hard to pick favorites, like it's picking children, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And it was so great to see, not only in the open, as we'll get into, they feature it so heavily, as opposed to just sort of the brief tease that like, oh, it's in the spaceship museum.
Yeah. Awesome. MC?
Oh my God, it's back. It's back. I'm just so happy. And I think one of my favorite things about this opening is Mariner and Freeman saying basically the exact same thing about dealing with Romulans in the neutral zone. They are really so much alike. It's why they don't get along with each other all of the time. It's beautiful. Did like the little nod to the Vulcans having a superior sense of smell, particularly the females. So, and oh my goodness, Boimler having to deal with waste extraction in the holodecks. Oh God. Oh, that's something. I guess we had to have that come up once more before the promotions happened, because it's just such a humiliating thing for them to do. But I mean, like the important Voyager, just it's so beautiful, and the music is just great. And I'm not even like the hugest Voyager fan. I mean, I really like it, but I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like Mariner, and oh my god, we're gonna do something on Voyager, and that shows to me that Mariner is deep down basically Boimler.
Yeah. And I think Mariner's a Janeway stan too, like a hardcore Janeway stan. Yeah. Fetcher Sketcher on the YouTube chat says, laughed at the space whale cylinder. Yes, every year the opening credits add a new element to the Borg engagement, and this time it was the whale probe from Star Trek 4. Makes the noise and everything.
And this is the 4th season, so get something from the 4th movie.
Hey. I love that. Awesome. Speaking about loving things, oh man, this cold open, I was really happy that T'Lyn just like hit the ground running and was immediately just with Tendi. And like you said, Nari, like they came like just like fast and furious with the jokes, right? Like T'Lyn just being like, yes, you would, your odor would be quite whatever she says. I made a gif. Yeah, repulsive.
Something like
it's
that.
just like, she's being nice. She thinks she's being nice. Boy's just like, oh, oh man.
I like his reaction. They have a nice chemistry together.
They do. No spoilers, but something does. I think the next episode 3, they're gonna do things together. So that look forward to that. Yeah, and then Voyager, the reveal. When I watched it the first time, I seriously thought that like they just took screen grabs of Voyager and like drew over them. That's how good, and that's on a disc. Like that is how good the animation is on Voyager. Like it brought me back to the show. The music, just everything. Goosebumps. Seeing the bridge, the view screen was perfect. It was just, I loved this cold open so much. Yeah. Anything else in the chat? I laughed so hard when the sign said ensign at work. Ricardo says yes.
I want that sign.
Yeah.
Put that on my door.
It's a good sign. Let's talk about the main. I actually don't know what the A and B plot is. Like, is the A plot Voyager and the B plot Tuvix, or is it the other way around? I kind of took Tuvix as the A plot.
I think they're both A plots.
I think they are both A plots. So let's talk about A plot number 1. Aw shit, you got Tuvixed. That's right. While T'Lyn and Tendi, they're and I'm dubbing them T squared, by the way, or T2. I haven't decided yet. I like it though. They're bringing pieces of Voyager's rotating exhibit aboard their shuttle, and a piece of the flower that turned Tuvix into Tuvix from that episode gets out and goes through all the ship systems and winds up in the transporter with Billups and T'Ana, and we get to Illips aboard the Cerritos. Thoughts, Nari?
Oh gosh. That was my first thought. Here we go again. I think it was a very odd combination of people. I suspect that the pattern on the uniform was supposed to be the direct nod to Neelix, because I didn't see that in their original clothing. Maybe I was wrong. But wow, that was an unfortunate accident. Although I guess, as often happens, transporters seems to be accept a lot of liability using them.
Yep. I would not. I think I would have like the Bones reaction to going on the transporter. I'll just take the shuttle. I don't want to be Tuvix. Yeah. MC.
Oh my goodness! Just there's just so much that you could say about this. First of all, I'm surprised that they have rotating exhibits. I mean, you've put hologram emitters all over the ship. You can figure out a way to have everything out there. Also, it's a really big ship. Like, you're not going to have, monuments to every single crew member in there. Like, I'm sorry, Casey is not getting like his room preserved.
Dude, so, knowing that the curator, maybe he did though.
But Casey, really?
Anybody. Like, I feel like he did something for everybody. That dude was a little obsessive. I don't know.
That is true.
I agree with that.
And yeah, it was a really interesting combination putting Tana and Billups together. I think specifically that moment with Shax and Billups really stood out to me, where it's just like, so what do you remember physically? And just like the wide-eyed look, and you know that's asexual Billups in there just screaming. Because Billups is asexual. We're,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
we are sticking
we've
with this.
definitely, yeah, for sure.
And I'm surprised they still had the flower. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
why
you'd think
did
they'd
they
want to
keep
burn
it?
that.
That's a really bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's Voyager. Come on.
Yeah,
And I was going to say, you just mentioned this curator. He tried to tell them to not destroy the macrovirus.
Yeah.
That is true.
No, it's history.
like, what if a little kid like bumped that when it made it to Earth in the museum, right? And then, dude, bad things are happening on the
At the very least, you need a tighter seal on it. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like
Yeah.
that, like bumped open so easily.
too easily.
And of the little bit, like before they got joined together, when Billups was telling her
Oh my
about, you know, the pet that he grew up with, which I didn't quite hear what it was, but it didn't sound like it was a normal pet. It sounded like, you know, I will have to rewatch to actually hear what it was, because I think it was probably something very weird and Dungeons and Dragony. But just Tana going, it's like, why does everyone want to tell me about my bleeping
Yeah.
their bleeping pets?
Pets, when
yeah,
I'm-
pet
when I'm- yeah.
dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pet dragon, apparently.
Oh man. Jamal Taylor, I believe from New York City away team. Welcome. They they kept the cheese, so why not keep the macrovirus? Like, you know, why not? Why not? Yeah, or why not keep the flower? So I don't know. That's a good question. I guess he kept everything, even in, you know. Is it a little bit like concerning? We're gonna go back to Tuvix in a second. That Seven's alcoves could assimilate still? Like I was like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Okay.
They missed some nanites.
Yeah.
There's a lot of look. I will just say there's a lot of negligence lurking around these corners. It's maybe for the best that all of this came out over the course of this episode, because if these things have been discovered when the first round of visitors got in,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was the curator being a little too zealous and like, we need to have an exhibit about the scorpion incident. So
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, attention to details, but not the safety details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen, everybody by now over the past 3 years know how I feel about Tuvix. I don't watch the episode. I said it to Nari before we recorded. # Janeway did nothing wrong. That's all I need to say on it. And everybody in the chat was like, oh, Julian, like, what was your reaction? You hate Tuvix. I'm like, I fucking loved it. I thought it was brilliant, because if anybody was going to do like Tuvix again and do it justice, it was going to be Lower Decks, and they did. And Tana and Billups together are just so bananas. I was here for it. I enjoyed it so much. Let's move on to, and by the way, for how careful Tendi is usually, and it's not her fault, like that was a loose jar, but like Tendi sometimes is responsible for some major things happening, and I find that funny.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a recurring theme. Yeah, I really like that a lot. So this happens, looking for guidance. Jane was like, oh, not Janeway. Carol's like, we can handle this. I'll just read Janeway's logs. It's all good. And she's in her ready room after Mariner also tells Boyham's like, you know, Janeway just murdered Tuvix, right? And Carol's sitting out there, she's like, she just murdered him. And I love Shax's reaction too. He's like, oh shit, she was for real.
Yeah. Janeway did not mess around.
Yeah, Janeway did not mess around. I love him so much. What did we think about all the throwbacks to Janeway's decision? Because that comes up very early in this episode, Nari.
Yeah, I'm happy to start, and I'll start with # Justice for Tuvix, which is as I previewed a little bit in the pre-show. There are really interesting, complicated discussions that can be had about the Tuvix episode and about the Janeway's decision there on at least moral or philosophical levels from a legal perspective. And it may be in part because the law, at least as we know it, does not account for the possibility that people can come back from the dead. And I say that with a straight face, in the sense that, like, you know, if in the real world that we know it today, if someone commits murder, we do not credit their argument that, oh, I just killed their body. but their soul is actually in this box, for example. So in this case, like, and the law, at least as we understand it today, Tuvix and Tuvok and Neelix, or I guess in this case, Billups and
Ta'ana, yeah.
Tana, thank you, have ceased to exist, at least as we currently understand it, that would be recognized in our law. Their bodies don't exist. Their biological life signs are gone, and instead they're replaced with this third entity that has combinations of them both, but believes himself to be a unique individual. That is not either of them. So in that case, like, the law doesn't recognize as potential people with claims or anything like that the two people who no longer exist, who contributed to the existence of this third person. The law would most certainly recognize Tuvix or Tillips as a person with potential rights, right? Like, we can get into those discussions, and we do in this show and in sci-fi everywhere, about what is a person, what would the law recognize as a person. It's kind of not worth getting into here, because it resembles a person. It seems to be conscious. It speaks to us. We would probably recognize Tillips or Tuvix as a person, and that person has very serious rights. You generally, for example, can't get injunctive relief, meaning a court would never order someone to kill themselves. There's lots of legal arguments about what Janeway did. You could argue that what she did was perhaps necessary in order to prevent other harms. The problem is that we generally don't recognize, killing one person to save another person if the first person is not the one actively causing the harm. You also don't get to argue self-defense if it's not an imminent danger. And again, because the law doesn't recognize people who do not currently exist but could exist, there is no imminent harm to Anna or to Billups at this point in time any longer. And in fact, to Carol's credit, she does try to take a beat. So we're not in a rush. No decisions have to be made now. But and even though Janeway was in the Delta Quadrant, unfortunately, the same kind of logic applies at that point, that there wasn't an imminent danger to two people who currently don't exist. There wasn't any reason she couldn't have waited and tried to bring them back to life on a later date. So legally speaking, at least, and I could talk about this for a long time. I have before. Legally speaking, at least, Janeway probably committed murder. And it's also different. The last thing I'll say is, like, another argument you could bring in Janeway's defense is that captains order crew members to do dangerous things to rescue other crew members all the time, or just to do dangerous things because it's the mission. Problems with that are similar, though, where the crew members she's trying to order Tuvix to save don't exist. And that, I believe, if I remember that episode correctly, Tuvix resigns in order to not have to follow orders anymore.
Yep. Even I remember that. It's been a bit. Yeah.
And there are a lot of real world kind of dark analogies that I don't want to get into too much, but it's it could be you order someone because they can donate some organs and save some people. Yeah. We get in a dark place really fast if we accept the argument that we can bring back to life or even save two people if only you would die.
Fair.
So unfortunately, that's the legal gist of it. But I will say, and I think the original episode of Tuvix does this extraordinarily well, very complicated questions about morality and philosophy when it comes to that decision. And just because something is one way in the law doesn't mean that has to be how we feel about it morally, how we feel about it in our hearts. And I certainly do not consider Janeway a horrible murderer who deserves to get clapped in irons as soon as she gets back to Earth. Even though that's how I feel about it on the law.
Yeah. And Tara actually brought up a good point about what you just said, but who knows what happened in the law in the centuries between ours and Janeway's. So yeah, both legal interpretation and just how you interpret it as a human being. So
absolutely. If there are, especially with time travel and all of these things that we have going on in the Star Trek future, presumably their laws have changed to recognize things that we currently have no need to.
Yeah, for sure. MC.
Okay, so in terms of the Federation law, because obviously I can't speak to the law now because I have no idea. But in terms of the Federation law, there is absolutely nothing on the books about something like Tuvix, because there was never a courtroom episode with our main characters going over all of the legal details, because that's the only way people get recognized as people, unless they're just flat out normal baseline humans. Now, I personally believe that Janeway murdered Tuvix. That's not that I'm not glad that at least one half of that is back normal.
Wait, which half?
I don't know. But yeah, it was murder. And I think that, I'm glad that it was brought up in this episode. There are totally other ways that it could have been handled. Yes, it would have been hard in the Delta Quadrant, but now that they're here, in the Alpha Quadrant with the whole backing of the Federation, yes, there's something that they can do. There's something that we have seen done at least twice that they can do. They need to, and I mean, maybe this morality is sketchy, but I think everything involving a Tuvix creature is going to be sketchy. You've got to, hypospray the person who's been melded, put them through the Thomas Riker in the transporter.
Yes.
And have one of them separated. So never have the transporter clone wake up. Just have the one who is melded, and then the two people. It's like, oh, look, we were able to get all, you guys separated, but also have the one who is joined. And I think that would help with the morally gray area, because you still have the Tuvix who's really glad to be alive, and then the other two. So I don't know. It's probably the way I would personally handle it. But then also, I don't know. It feels like making a transporter clone is really easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm of course on the opposite end of this. Janeway did, I think, what she needed to do. I always look at this like both Tuvok and Neelix did not ask for this to happen to them. I think that's really important, and that this, like, would they have gotten beamed up knowing that this piece of flour came up with them, right? And we can have the doctor do his scans, and we can and Tuvix can say that they are of the same mind, and they agree that they don't want to, like, they want to exist, they want to be alive. But Tuvok wants to live, and Neelix want to live too, and they each have their own people, and they have their own families that are really important to them. And I think in the specific Janeway situation, yeah, it's not like an immediate threat, but you just don't know in the Delta Quadrant. And I think that she made a really important command decision at the time. Is Neelix the most important person on the ship? No. Is Tuvok? Yes. You don't get through the rest of the mission, maybe, if Tuvok's not there.
Tuvok is the whole reason that the mission started in the first place.
Well, true, but still. He's also,
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I think that I will say, is it murder? Probably. But is it the right decision on board the ship? Yes. And I love the callback to it. And I do like that they briefly talk about, even though this is a comedy show, so they do, dance around it pretty quickly, which we're about to get into. Like Tendi's got objections. T'Lyn even says, like, don't talk to it because you don't want to form attachments, right? Like, so, and that's a very other subject.
Oh, that was dark.
That was really dark. And again, like, Vulcan logic coming through strong there. So,
and a really sweet moment from Shax where he's just like, is Dr. T'Ana all right in the way?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I ship them so hard, my OTP.
They're amazing. This ends up being a very different situation than Tuvix, though, right? Because T'Illipse finds Janeway's logs and just goes full on supervillain, and creates an army of Tuvixes aboard the Cerritos. What was it? Was the Whale and Stevens? Was that the combination?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my god! He's like, that's not my best work. Oh, that was so.
I
good.
want a fish.
I want a fish. It was so good. It was so good. T'Lyn circumvents the transporters, though, because this army's about to take over the ship, and turns all of the Tuvixes into a giant Tuvix, and I quote, meatball. Pretty much not sentient, like, cannot think for itself, meatball that's going to fall over and suffocate and die. So that happens, and that before turning them into normal, right? What did we think about T'Lyn's situation? And I didn't put this in the outline, but I think it's important to talk about how like Tendi was able to find like the personalities within the meatball to help, like MC says, like science buddies, right? Like each of their science skills came through and they were able to do it together. What did we think about the solution here, Nari?
So really quick, this is one of the most like legal issue dense parts of this episode probably, because first of all, I think it's important to note that to the extent that I think that separating Tuvix against their will was murder, taking two people, throwing them into the transporter and turning them into a new person is probably also murder.
Yep.
Double murder.
Yeah, no consent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Double homicide in the sense that neither of the two, unique living individuals that went into the transporter come out the other side. They both cease to exist. Now we have a third unique individual who did not previously exist. So to Ellipse is committing wanton double homicide, just grabbing everybody she can. It's also assault, battery to get the people to come there. It's a crime spree. So I actually think T'Lyn has a really great defense in a hypothetical situation in which someone wants to argue that she's like assaulting people or murdering them by doing the transport in this way, because she's doing it in order to stop the imminent murder of the rest of her crewmates and herself, to form this army of Tuvixes. So I think 100% justified. That would be a justified use of even deadly force, if we want to term it that way. I do think it's unfortunate that it turns into a meatball, but on the other hand, it has the convenient effect of removing all of the moral complexities that we were just discussing. If it's not a sentient being or a conscious being in any way, then we're not even concerned about getting a judge to sign off on whether or not it's a person under the law. Just this is a meatball.
Right, like if you take it off life support, it's gonna die, right?
Yes.
Like
And it has no thoughts, it has no hopes and dreams. It doesn't want to keep living as a meatball. And at that point, yes, I think it's perfectly fine to use your transporter procedure to try to create actual living people out of the meatball. And I think that was a great point, Julie, and such a really nice unison of the two different skill sets. Because my understanding is that the transporter was just baffled by all of the different genetic codes. And so she needed to identify the regions where those genes would be.
Yep. MC, right, real quick before you go, where was the comment? Jay Woman brought up that we are not in the Delta Quadrant, which is a great point. And I think it is Shax, right, who brings that up to Carol.
Yeah.
We have time. Let's go to Earth. And they were going to. And I think they were going to try and like take him to Daystrom and be like, Daystrom away, please. And figure this out.
Take him to the farm.
Take them to the farm, take them to Daystrom, like
at the very least, Carol doesn't have to be complicit
right,
in the
like
murder.
World's best scientist. But to Ellipse takes that choice out of her hands. So at that point, being in the Delta Quadrant doesn't matter. Also, Jamal says T'Lyn was correct. Put the accident, in stasis immediately, and then figure it out. No interaction, which is a good point, right? Especially if you can get back to Earth, right? Like, put it in stasis. We'll figure it out when we get there. So a lot of good points there. MC, what did you think about T'Lyn's solution and them science buddies working together?
I mean, first of the army of the Tuvixes. I mean, is it wrong that Captain Dr. Fremolimu was really hot?
A little bit, right?
Yeah, it was like disturbingly like, I don't like this, but
what did she say the minute that she transported? Bring me more fresh,
scrumptious crew members.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was. I that made me uncomfortable, but it was really funny getting seeing all of the different combinations of everybody was great. And T'Lyn's solution, getting them all into the, I guess the brig. It was not her intention to create the Tuvix meatball.
I don't think it was.
I think that's
either.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just that happened because they were already infected with the DNA of the flower. And also it created more of a mess. So I mean, I do think using the transporter, good idea, because
you said it
what else are
earlier.
you supposed to do?
Yeah.
And then them working together. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Science Besties.
T-squared.
There they are.
Yes,
MC made this.
the blue shirt besties.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think somebody like Tendi is the whole reason Lynn was sent here, because sorry.
No, it's okay. I know
the
you're getting
whole-
over your cold.
The whole thing with Lynn being a rebel by Vulcan standards. Think about the one other person we know as a rebel in terms of being a Vulcan, and the reverence with which he is treated by this time period. If somebody on a Vulcan ship is going to see somebody who is somewhat like Spock, are they going to try to quell it? Or are they going to be, do you know what? Maybe we should nurture this by putting them into a situation like Spock was during his youth. So now Lynn is exposed to human ways of thinking and human ways of logic.
Yeah.
And I think it'll make her better for it.
Yeah, I agree. I love them together. I love them so much together. Yeah, I listen. The meatball was hilarious. It, like, the feet sticking out, just everything. Like, you knew the minute that thing fell over, it was gonna just cease to be. You know, I just freaking adored it. And listen, like, Tendi, there she is, right?
Oh, my girl.
My spirit animal, my favorite, like, probably my second favorite Star Trek character behind this man. And I love this science buddy relationship that is starting to bloom already. Let's move. Oh, by the way, Takako wrote on the chat, is the plural of Tuvix Tuvixes? Tuvixes? I like Tuvices.
Me too.
Quite a bit. Let's talk about Voyager some more, because this is just a total Voyager episode. The macrovirus from the gel packs. Of course, it's the gel packs. Mariner finds the macrovirus that was hiding in them. It begins to just create absolute chaos on the bridge. Boymes freezes because he's thinking about the promotion and how it's going to, like, hurt his relationship with Mariner. And then all of a sudden, we have holodeck characters from all of Voyager's past, as Boymes puts it, all of Voyager's deep cuts, and they really were. Chaotica, the weird-ass clowns, Janeway's boyfriend from Fairhaven, who Mariner is totally into for like a minute. And then assimilated lizard babies, because, of course, we have lizard baby. Where is my lizard baby button? Where are you?
Lizard babies?
There it is. Assimilated lizard babies just everywhere, who then set a course for the Borg cube. How Voyager was this, and why was it awesome? That's all I'm gonna start with, Nari.
Yeah, I mean, so I just, before I do have more torts and crimes that we could discuss.
Yes, please. No.
I do want to say this was awesome. This was such a love letter to Voyager, to see all of these scenes, to have all of these throwbacks. But some of it was super dangerous and could be considered a legal problem. I do want to know, just like, I'm going to just do some rapid fire stuff.
Yeah.
Macrovirus could be an endangered species.
I think that's why he kept it on board, right?
Yeah. Arguably why he was saying you can't actually shoot it, because that would be a violation of the Endangered Species Act. Of course, it has to be on the list, but let's just pretend that it is. However, I do want to note that if an endangered species is imminently causing threat to life or body to another person, you can use force. You don't have to let the endangered bear eat you. And in this case, I know they said that everyone in Starfleet was inoculated, but that's a really big, sharp, like, infector thing. Like, I don't think you have to let it stab you in that circumstance. And certainly once it starts multiplying, I think you're starting to get into clear danger zone there. we'll come back to this, I think, for the next episode, but there's also strict liability when it comes to wild animals. These could probably be considered wild animals. Curator might be on the hook for that. Again, really lucky for him that this all happened now instead of later when there are civilians on board.
It's a Tiger King situation.
Yeah. Oh my, that's great. So yes, definitely a lot of issues. It happens super duper fast, but I just loved seeing like all of the Borg alcoves and all of the different things from Paris's holodeck programs, and even the Irish guy. Oh my god. So wonderful.
I love you, but I can't be with you. Oh, so good. Yeah. MC.
I can't with this. This is just this is chef's kiss. Like, as much you know how much I loved Here I'll Trust Nothing. Like, that was such a good episode. This one, I don't want to say is better than that one, but
you can say it.
So much this well, no, because I love that episode. This one was even more of a Valentine to Voyager.
Yeah.
I when I was watching this, I was just like, oh, this is the comedic version of Shattered. Because I mean, even a lot of the same stuff was pulled out in that episode. And it has a much better protagonist in it because I don't have to watch Chakotay, which is not a thing that I want to do right now. The stuff that they pulled out for this was just so good. And I really like Boimler in this, just like, and how they set it up for him. The idea that we think it's just like Boimler being regular old Boimler. It's like, oh, he's just messing up because he's nervous. And in a way, it's almost harkening back to Mariner in, I guess it was season 1, when she had her friend, the captain, show up and wanting to make her first officer, and Mariner was screwing up because she didn't want to be made a first officer. Boimler's kind of doing the same thing, which again speaks to my idea that Mariner and Boimler are basically the same person, just, you know, a couple of years apart. As soon as I saw the promotional image for this specific episode and saw that it was a picture of Mariner with Michael from Fairhaven, I was like, oh my God. I think my exact words in our chat were, if Mariner says delete this guy, I will give them all my money. Unfortunately, Paramount, I don't have any money, so
no, we just spent all our money at Fan Expo.
Yeah, so I have no money, but you have lots of money that you should be giving to your writers and actors. So
there it is.
Chaotica, I love the animation they did on Chaotica. Just like that, you know, old-timey, just that little bit of great film grain to it. Beautiful.
How they managed to do the film grain on Chaotica while still keeping all the other animation, like, hats off to the animators in this episode.
Hey,
like,
animators more too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And the lizard, oh, come on. I mean, lizard babies.
These are babies?
By the way, Jessie Gender's review, she was also calling for a Moopsy plush, and she mentioned also wanting to have a lizard baby plush. So that's going to be the next thing I make, because I was like, that's a really good idea. So I'm taking that.
Nobody wants a macrophage plush?
I mean, maybe, like, because I mean, they do have those cute little virus plushies. So let's make one from this episode. This one, it was just so good. It was, Voyager is ridiculous. We all know it. So let's take the most ridiculous. Let's take the most ridiculous parts of it and mash it all together and pair it with Boimler and Mariner, and throw in a little reference to the crossover from Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that pipe
that
thing
was a
that
nice
we
line.
can't talk about. Yeah, loved it. The biggest thing that I'm going to say about this episode, and I think I said it to MC and Eric when we were watching more of these together in Toronto. This episode is amazing to me because while Here I'll Trust Nothing is still amazing and like really good, it has legacy characters, right? this is a Voyager episode that manages to give you nostalgia with not relying on a single legacy character. They pulled it off so perfectly. Like I am still getting goosebumps thinking about this episode. And you know why? Voyager is a character of that show, right? Just seeing the ship, hearing the music, seeing the decks. I mean, every little detail of Voyager was in the animation, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. This was an episode of Voyager that was animated, and I love that because this type of batshit crazy stuff happened all the time. And I adored it. Chaotica, I mean, special place in my heart because we did a table read of it like a couple of years ago for the pod, and we love that episode. And I love Boimler be like, ha ha ha! I am the son of Captain Proton, and I'm like, you sly son of a bitch, I love you. Ah, man,
I want that holodeck program now.
Yes.
I want that to show up where because I mean, I don't think Boimler is pulling that out of nowhere.
Nope, I don't think so. I love seeing Harry's 1-pip stand. They kept the 1-pip on there, even though he's hopefully been promoted at this point. I loved everything about this, and I did love the interactions between Boimler and Mariner. Right, like they got to stop keeping things from each other because they're besties and they're gonna come up the ranks together, and I really love that moment. So,
Before we move on,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
having talked about this, I just remembered one more quick legal issue is probably there's some product liability when it comes to the holodeck program having safety settings random. Why is that a setting?
I think, okay, to be fair, I think when the Borg lizard baby assimilated the ship, right? Or no, was that after the holodeck program showed up? You might have a point. I feel like it might have been a glitch.
It was definitely a glitch,
Right.
Instead of having just the settings turned off, it seemed to select a setting that was unhelpful. Yeah. And the fact that you have random as a setting seems like you're inviting an accident. But anyway.
Well, right.
I'm also wondering about the copyright issues with Chaotica because we know from Enterprise that Chaotica is an established series before.
Well, if it's old enough, it may be out of copyright and in the public domain. And given the film grain, it's possible, unless at the time that Paris was running it, it was put in that sort of flavor to make it appear old, but was actually relatively new IP.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
Yeah. Nice. Jamal says every holodeck is a massive liability. That is the truth. True. Yep. Let's talk about the end of this episode. Voyager winds up on Earth. Rutherford and Boims have their own exhibit on Voyager now, featuring Neelix's cheese. Amazing. And the gang all get promoted at the end of the episode, except for Rutherford. Are we happy? And listen, we're not going to spend too much time crying about Rutherford because we watched the next episode. We've been talking about this since we started reviewing Lower Decks. Like, are we happy that they did promotions finally 4 years into the show? Nari?
I am, and it's because, and this is happening all throughout this episode, there's character development.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really, I think, do the show for too long without at least some of our favorite characters climbing the ranks, if what they're going to show us is character development. If it were, kind of like Simpsons-esque and it reset every time, right. They could keep doing that. But because it's a story in which our characters are growing over time, we would expect this to happen eventually. I appreciate that they waited this long, because and they're only going up to lieutenant junior grade, which apparently still has a lot of shit to shovel. But I like it. I think it's really great to see that it's the writers also doing such a great job continuing to keep the show fun and interesting, but letting the characters grow in this way.
Yeah. MC?
Well, I talked about this in the last episode, that when we were going over season 3, one of the things that made me frustrated in season 3 was the lack of progression of the characters. That I thought it was well timed that at least one of them, Tendi, got promoted. And it was really nice seeing that happen in this episode. I had predicted that, we would get some of them, but not all of them getting promoted. Rutherford was not the one that I thought wouldn't be promoted.
Right.
I did think that it was going to be Boimler. the rate that Lynn got promoted, Harry Kim is curled up in the fetal position weeping.
He's like retired from Starfleet. He's like, fuck this shit. I'm done.
Yeah. And just the way that Rutherford and Boymes did this. I mean, seriously, this is weird Voyager crap that can only be solved with more weird Voyager crap. One of the beautiful things about this show is how much it pokes fun and points out the oddities of Star Trek. And Voyager is freaking weird. And we love it for that. And so we do have to use Neelix's cheese to save everything.
What else would we use?
What else would we use? And
Leola root stew? Sorry.
Even though
That's right.
Rutherford saves everybody, the fact that he doesn't get promoted because engineers don't get promoted for breaking things. I'm pretty sure that Scotty had a trip, and just like Torres, so many other engineers would disagree with that because they're breaking shit all the time.
True. MC, before I forget, I was going to make a really funny joke. You were talking about Casey not getting exhibit, right? But Casey could have a great exhibit right in main engineering that says, this is where B'Elanna broke Casey's nose. Just saying, that would be a good exhibit. And that curator would do that. Anyway.
Also, can we talk about the fact that apparently everything on Voyager was taped and that's how they know everything? It's like canon. They've canonized the actual shows now.
Yeah, that is really funny. I don't know what else I could say that you guys didn't already say. I loved the end of this. I love that they get the promotions. Dude, I think I did like a, yeah, you go Tendi, when she did, yo guys, I got a pip. I was like, oh, my girl. She should be a lieutenant commander though. Can we just say like she should be like a lot higher already?
Yeah.
But we'll let it go.
I agree with you, MC. She should have been promoted last season and this season.
Both.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on? We got a couple of things before we get into the next episode. Good.
I mean, there is Mariner with just her absolute
shock.
shock.
We didn't talk about the shock. Yeah.
And the fact that there was a really good reason for her to be promoted. Of all of the characters, Mariner really does show command potential because she is trying to get everybody else to be their best.
Yes.
And also, and I'll talk about this more in the next episode, Ransom is starting to become one of my favorite characters.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good in these two.
I mean, I might even have my own video come out about just the senior staff. But the fact that he started out as, kind of like this parody of Riker. And now he's becoming just like regularly like Riker, somebody who's really supporting the lower deckers to be the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love his relationship with Mariner, and we will talk more about that in the next episode.
We sure will. Nari, any final thoughts? You good? Or you're good?
I'm good. I'm sure that there are other things that we could sue people for here, but we can move on to the next one.
I love it. Oh, man. Does anybody other than me want to read? I decided because we were talking, and I thought this would be a nice thing to do. Tara writes limericks for our mailbag every week, and I decided to split them up and put them in the actual outline. Does anybody want to read Tara's first limerick for this episode?
I would be happy to, because I think MC might have a cough, as long as Tara will not be offended if I do so.
No, I think she'd be very happy for you too.
Tuvix, spelt with the W, the two, Tuvix. The Cerritos embarks on a secret mission. They're escorting the Voy, museum-ready edition. But then the crew are getting Tuvixed, macroviruses, nanites, and chaotica betwixt. Promotions are welcome, but who caused the Klingon demolition?
A good question that we are going to talk about at the very end of this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then before we move any further, we have our first code word for winning the Yosemite shuttlecraft. If you don't know what this looks like, it's the ship that Mariner crashes, the shuttle in the second episode, where she's like, yeah, I'm going to make this a nice smooth landing. It's the shuttle that we see all the time. Tara says, well done, by the way, Nari.
Oh, thank you. I loved it.
It is a beautiful model of this. A lot of people in our chat have Eagle Moss ships, so you know their quality. This one looks really good. We are giving this away totally for free. Your first code is Fairhaven. So all you need to do is email trivia@strangenewpod.com. Just email us that word, Fairhaven. You could also DM the Strange New Pod 9000 account on Discord. Thank you, Giraffe, for that. The Strange New Pod account on our Discord is now Strange New Pod 9000. It's an AI. We don't control it. We do. We're just being funny. And then you could also DM
But
us.
who's controlling it?
It could be any one of us. And then you could also DM us the answer on Twitter or Instagram. Cool. Before we get into the next episode, because I haven't played this in a long time and I really want to, we're just going to hear a quick word from our friend, Fred Tatasciore.
You're listening to Strange New Pods. We've got to do something about those pods. They're not of this universe. Fighting fascism is a full-time job.
Hi, I'm Fred Tatasciore, and I'm the voice of Lieutenant Shax of Lower Decks.
Come join me with the baby bears and one beautiful giraffe. See you there.
Thank you, Fred. We miss you. We have to have you on again soon.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, the baby bears. We love it. Hey, Eric's in the chat. Welcome, buddy. By the way, if you're home and you want to hop on, feel free. We're good to go. At any time.
And Fred was wonderful at Fan Expo, as Eric said in the chat. He had a very nice talk.
Yeah, I missed it unfortunately, but you guys said high praise. So it is now. We did. I'm like all thrown off, man. I think one of the few times we've done a double review. They did a 2-episode premiere. We're on episode 3. I almost said 3. 402. I have no bones, yet I must flee. I still think my favorite episode title of all time.
So good.
And our order will go again. Nari, and if Giraffe does show up, Giraffe, MC, followed by myself. And if Eric shows up, Eric can get in on this. So, Narj, the Banana Man's Menagerie. I'm not home. I'm sneaking out to make comments and then running back to rehearsal. I love it. This is a running theme with our hosts on this show. Anytime we're like, oh yeah, we're taking the week off, we still end up watching the show and going into the comments and causing chaos. We're awful. We can't stay away. This episode starts with Jack and Shax in those glorious workout outfits that were used as punishment against Gates McFadden and Marina Sirtis from the awfully sexist asshole producers of TNG back then. But I'm glad that they were able to make it a fun joke and put them, Shax and Jack, in these outfits. This episode starts a little dark, right? Mariner overhears Ransom say that she won't be his problem much longer, right? She takes this in the most, Mariner way possible, and Mariner's gonna Mariner, right? Begins to self-sabotage during their away mission on this menagerie. Thoughts on Mariner's reaction to this and, this behavior that, we've seen from her throughout the seasons, Nari?
Yeah, it's I would say that it's an unfortunate backsliding for the character, except for what happens later in the episode. But it was a really good, I think, playing with our heartstrings on this, because we all really want to see Mariner develop as a character. And it certainly feels like at the beginning of this episode that she's not, because she's taking this in, like you said, the worst, most negative light, and then taking it as essentially a reason to be a really bad Starfleet officer. All of the things that she does over the course of this, like wild disrespect for the rules, reckless behavior when it comes to how she's piloting the shuttle, generally just a lot of really bad behavior out of Mariner. There would probably be things that she could be punished for under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
100%.
Yes. At minimum, she would definitely be getting the types of punishments that are often referred to as non-judicial, where essentially it's like this is how you get you're going to clean the bathroom with toothbrushes. That would be what I would expect to come out of this, were it not for, we'll save it for later, but the latter half of this episode. But yeah, pretty disappointing at first. And also, if you think that Mariner is accurate in her perception, also disappointing about Jack, because as you were saying, MC, I think at this point most of us have started to really like him, and it sounds at first like maybe he's also not progressing in the way that we hope.
Yeah, for sure. MC,
mentioning using chores as punishments. And this is how waste extraction in the holodeck should be used. Instead of giving it to the ensigns, don't put people in the brig. Have them, clean up the mess.
It's
in the
latrine duty.
holodecks.
You're totally right.
Yeah. So the workout outfits, yes, all of this. And to the people in our chat telling Chris, who is our resident Shax cosplayer, to do that. If you don't do that the next time I see you, we're no longer friends.
You have till Trek Long Island in May to piece that together, Chris.
Yeah.
And if it makes you feel better, I will grow my hair out and I will do Jack with you and we could do the squats together. Okay. I will go in on this with you. Just saying. Just saying.
Also, like, I've worn Vindicta Tendi, so like, come on, like, we can all show off a little bit.
Yeah.
As for the whole thing, like the Mariner plot, the overhearing Ransom, I don't love it. The way Ransom worded it, there's no way Mariner could, like, there's no way that he meant what he said at the end.
Agree.
I mean, I do think that he actually did mean it.
Wait, sorry, I'm confused. You mean you don't think he?
No, I think that the writers worded it very poorly.
Oh, okay.
It's like Ransom does have the best intentions for Mariner.
Right.
But the writers had to come up with their Three's Company misunderstanding. And I don't like it. And Mariner self-sabotaging, we've seen this from her multiple times, to the point that when Freeman was trying to get her off the Cerritos, her way of doing that was promoting Mariner. So
That's right.
This is a pattern with her, which makes this a little bit repetitive. I do think they handled it better in this episode. Like that whole, are you two breaking up? Like that was
because they do
good.
have that awkward sexual tension too.
Oh, totally. It was I did really like that, but it was kind of a repeated beat with Mariner, and hopefully this will be the last time we see that.
Yeah.
I think that maybe she has grown past that now.
Go ahead, Nori.
Oh, I was just crossing my fingers. I agree. Hopefully that'll be the last time we see it.
Yeah, so I liked all the Mariner self-sabotaging because I knew this was going to be, I just had a feeling. Like I knew this conversation was going to have in the episode, because this writing team has proven like time and time and time again that like they cherish these characters and think about like all of their next moves. Like this conversation had to happen in this episode. And yeah, is the line there to like throw us off a little bit? Sure. But I really loved it. And I love the part, especially when Jack's like, you do this all the time. And Mariner's like, no, I don't. It was just one. Oh, wait, why do I do that? And Jack's like, I don't know, but like you have my unwavering support. And the way that Jerry O'Connell delivered that line, I was like, dude, I am all in on Jack Ransom this season. Like, is he like, a beefcake? Yeah, but he's also like our loving beefcake, right? Like he wants what's best for his crew, and I love that.
Also, I don't hate a beefcake.
No,
as long as he has a heart of gold.
Yeah, right. Exactly. He was working out at the end of that episode too.
He's reaching his true himbo status, because a himbo has to be like ripped, dumb, but also got a gold heart. So like he's reached the final evolution of the himbo.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Moopsy. Moopsy.
I was gonna say, if you want to just like point to whatever screen my square I am on you, I'll try to do the sound effect.
Oh, I love it. The bone drinking cutest thing ever made. Where's our merch, and why does it drink bones? And the cute Moopsy yawn after it drinks Narj. It was so adorable. What did we think about Moopsy and the menagerie, Nari?
Okay, so this is probably going to be my longest segment. I'll try to keep this as brief as I can, but there is so much going on in this episode from a legal perspective. So I'll start with Moopsy, which is that Moopsy is probably going to be considered a wild animal. And I'll frame this around Narj is probably lucky that he doesn't make it to the end of this episode, because had he would be on the hook for a lot of civil and criminal liability potentially. So starting with Moopsy, who is probably a wild animal. Wild animals have something called strict liability. So if there are injuries or harms or damages that are caused by a wild animal that you have in your possession, it doesn't matter if you took lots of reasonable precautions. And to be fair, Narj did, as we learn by the end of the episode. Narj took lots of reasonable precautions to keep Moopsy and all the other potentially dangerous creatures in his menagerie away from where they could cause any harm. But if they're wild animals and something happens, strict liability means there's no required bad mental state. It doesn't matter if you took all the best precautions, you're still on the hook for it. So there's a lot of potential damages that could be he could be on the hook for there. The other aspect is that while I will take Narj at his word that he did not intend to scoop up I know, Julian. But for purposes of this, I will take him at his word that he didn't intend to scoop up the humans. If he had, of course, there would be kidnapping or human trafficking on the line here. But at the point at which he decides to not let them out of the cage, then you're still in danger for false imprisonment, which is both a crime. There's also a civil tort for it. And it doesn't matter that they ended up there through no fault or bad intent of your own. At the point at which you are restraining them, there's a physical barrier preventing them from going anywhere else on the space station. You're kind of in trouble. It doesn't really matter that you've said, I'm calling Starfleet and Starfleet's going to come pick you up. The best analogy I could come up with in the real world, somebody like wanders into a cargo container because they just want to check it out. Cargo container gets closed and picked up and put on a ship. They end up on the ship. The people running the ship didn't kidnap them. But if they decide, no, you're going to stay in that cargo container for the rest of this ride, you're kind of in trouble for that. So he would be potentially criminally liable for that. They may have other harms that they could argue, like trauma from this, lost wages because they can't go to work. So he could be on the hook for a lot for that. The last thing I really want to talk about is the humans, and as it turns out, their attempted murder or intentional freeing of Moopsy. So on the one hand, you definitely can't murder someone by loosing a wild animal on them. That shouldn't need a lot of discussion. But an interesting aspect is, let's say that I'm their defense lawyer. I'm doing my best on their behalf.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, while it's established in the show that they wanted to kill Narj in order to steal the Menagerie, for a while they were imprisoned by Narj. Would they have been justified in using arguably deadly force in the form of freeing Moopsy in order to free themselves? I think maybe up until the point that Starfleet is there. And it's because the general rule for self-defense is certainly true in California, is that you can only use force, certainly deadly force, in defense of your life or body from imminent harm. And so when Narj is holding them, it's arguable that they're like, we didn't take his word for it, that he's just going to let us go, that he called Starfleet. Why would we believe that? We don't know what he's going to do to us. They might have had that argument up until Starfleet shows up. They're now talking with Narj. They're waving at them saying, hey, we're going to pick you up and we're going to go in 5 minutes. At that point, there isn't imminent harm anymore. So it's not, self-defense is not eye for an eye. It's not, you held me in this cell for 2 months, so now I'm going to kill you. That is not how self-defense works. So at that point, no, they don't get to claim that defense. They are probably on the hook here for some pretty bad murder.
And I have to say, I call complete bullshit on Narj not intentionally kidnapping him. That dude was, I was going to say bad apples, but he's a banana. So
bad bananas.
Bad bananas. And I have to go back to bananas real quick. Jamal asks in the chat, so was Narj an homage to Bananas in Pajamas, or was that a wild coincidence? I hope it was, because that's amazing. I love it. MC, Moopsy in the Menagerie.
Yeah, so Narj absolutely knew that they were humans and that they were sentient and were part of the Federation. the environment that they were put in had freaking umbrellas. Like he knew how to set it up for them. Like for some reason he decided maybe that they were too much trouble. Something was happening that he decided, oh, I want to get rid of these humans. Maybe he like knew that the humans were like trying to like take over, and he just decided they were too much trouble. But yeah, he was going to keep those humans. And as Mariner says, humans are always getting put into zoos, and we'll talk about that more in the Easter egg hunt. Moopsy. It shouldn't surprise anyone that I freaking love Moopsy, considering I already have the Moopsy plush.
I don't think I've seen a reaction to a creature like this since Murph. Like Moopsy has taken Twitter, like Trek Twitter by storm. I just see every time I scroll, like every other tweet is Moopsy. So
the reaction Moopsy is getting from Trek Twitter is close to Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean it's I love the cute and the dangerous like juxtaposition. I said in our chat privately, I want Moopsy and Nibbler from Futurama to be BFFs.
Yes.
Because I mean it's perfect. And yeah, it's just like the little when they're running away and like just terrified, Moopsy's just kind of like toddling after them, Moopsy. And it rolls. The thing that's so great about Moopsy is that it's not doing anything that it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
evil. It's just
That's
an animal.
I was gonna say.
It's Moopsy doing Moopsy.
Moopsy's
Yeah.
Moopsy.
It's so cute. It like rolls around like a little cat or a hamster or something, and it's just so cute. And that's why the fandom is reacting to Moopsy this way, because they made it so much like a regular animal. It's just like you think about, your cat can roll around looking really cute, but then when you go and pet its belly, all of a sudden it'll like, claw you to death. Yeah. So I mean, it just so happens that Moopsy will drink your bones. And I don't know. I would probably be in danger because I might let Moopsy drink my bones.
Well, yeah, you're playing with fire having Moopsy on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a well-trained Moopsy.
Well-trained Moopsy. Yeah, I don't give a damn that it drinks bones. I think it's adorable. Like when it drank the bones and the teeth came out, I was like, oh, you go to town. You do it. You get it. And Narj is an asshole. So when Moopsy ate Narj, it's like, yeah, let's go. I got bad vibes from Narj. As the chat has now put it on YouTube, Narj is now banana bread. Which is dark as fuck. Y'all are sick. And
we love you.
And we love you.
Oh my goodness.
My God. Oh man. We already talked about Jack and Mariner, right? So we don't need to talk about their conversation. We already kind of hit on that a bunch. They do have this nice moment right after when the dude's like, I should have been a station scientist, and Jack's like, wait, we're gonna give it bones. And he's like, punch me, right? And then they start working together, and we have seen them work together a little bit before, but now that I think they are on the same page, like, is this the beginning of a very like mutual, we can punch each other in the face type of relationship, Nari?
I certainly hope so. And I did want to mention, again, from the Lego perspective, that it is not assault and battery in this case to punch Jack repeatedly in the face because it was consensual.
Yes.
This was a mutually agreed upon plan. It's kind of like it isn't assault if two people get in a boxing ring together. You can consent to these kinds of things. So it's totally fine. And yes, it's a really great moment. It's the thing that moves us forward, as like, MC and everyone else was talking about. There's like this moment where you think there's backsliding or no progress happening. And this is the moment like where we really get that progress and they become hopefully really good teammates.
Yep, agreed. Excuse me, MC.
I mean, I've already talked a lot about this.
Yeah.
Jack and Mariner together. And I do love the little ensign. What's it, Ensign Glenn or something like that? I always want to call him Ensign Ricky from Family Guy.
We could call him Ensign Ricky because I forget his name.
Because it is something like
He's a red shirt.
Yeah. But the whole not understanding what's going on between them. And I mean, they are very confusing. I mean, Mariner, apparently knows how Jack sleeps face down like a baby. And they have chemistry together. I mean, I do like this whole mentor-mentee relationship, but also like there's still chemistry between them. And I like
Ensign Gary, sorry.
Ensign Gary. I knew it was something like that, 'cause Gary is just like the perfect name for that little guy.
Totally.
I need to replicate new pants.
Sorry to any Garys out there.
I mean, there's a reason why Gary Stu has become like the counterpart to Mary Sue. So, and that's kind of what I thought of. And yeah, them working together, the whole punching in the face to get his teeth out really reminded me of, I think it's Temporal Edicts, when we first see their dynamic, and Ransom stabs Mariner in the foot. Is very much a callback to that. We're going full circle, where that was an episode where Ransom was trying to sabotage Mariner. And now he's supporting her. And this is growth not only from Mariner, but from Jack. Because, yes, season 1 Jack was, we've been calling Jack a meathead. I think old Jack was a meathead. I think now he's a himbo because he has developed that loving, support of the lower deckers, which he didn't have in season 1. And I really think that's demonstrated, particularly with his relationships with Mariner and Boimler, probably because they're the ones on the command track.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really like them together, and I hope to see more of them in the future now that Mariner's really starting to buckle down and be serious.
I'm not saying this to be funny, like just going off like what you said real quick about like how Mariner knows like how he sleeps. Like I think they have fucked off camera at least once. Like they've had a night. And I like the way that they interact with each other like in every episode, I think shows that a little bit. And I hope that gets answered at some point, either this season or next season, because it would just be like another, like whether it turns into anything, like I don't really care. Like if they're together, you guys know, I'll ship whoever the fuck. But if they don't, I don't care. If they do, it would be cool. But I'd like to know either way, because that could add like another interesting layer to their relationship.
I feel if any two characters on the show could have a one night stand and then not talk about it ever, it would be those two.
Agreed.
Totally agree.
Yep. Totally. Let's move on to what's going on aboard the ship. Computer, polarize the lights. That's all you needed to say, dude. That's all you needed to say. Oh, man. And Boimler should know this, by the way. I'm just going to start off by saying that. Of all the people, Boimler, come on, man. You know how these ships work. And then obviously Rutherford's missing Pips. They're all saying goodbye to their way too small shitty bunks. Boims gets assigned to his new quarters right above the nacelle, which is just blinding him. And he even busts out like the Spock goggles from TOS, which is a brilliant callback. He has Shax move him because he's like buddies with Shax, and he calls him Baby Bear. It's adorable. And then his new room is in between two holodecks, which is just like, who designed the Cerritos? Who did it? A
madman.
A madman in a box. It was the Doctor. The Doctor would do that if we're gonna cross sci-fi.
Maybe
shows.
Riker had some input, because he would love to have a room like between two holodecks so that he could easily get to one.
Yep, that's true.
Geordi.
Oh God. Oh, delete your browser history, folks. Boims just gives up at this point, right? And just moves into a Jeffries tube. And then after Rutherford gets his pip, right, they move in together, and Rutherford shows him that he could have just dimmed the windows, what did we think about the whole Boyme's quarters journey, Nari?
I think this is a really great little comedic series of events. I agree. I don't understand why Boimler didn't know he could dim the windows. Because as you're pointing out, like if someone designed the ship that way, there's some serious problems with the design of that ship. There may be some civil liability because if it's blinding you, that means there is radiation coming off of the nacelles that is biologically impacting you. That sounds really dangerous. I don't even know why there's a setting on the windows that would allow that to happen. It's just a little nuts. But then the other part that I find interesting about this, at least from the legal geeky perspective, is the room in between the two holodecks. So at least there, as in Next Generations, I'm trying to remember his name. They call him not so affectionately Broccoli. Barclay, thank you. In that episode where they discover that he has these like kind of weird fanboy fantasy-esque holodeck programs about the crew, it is mentioned in there that there's an assumption of privacy when it comes to the holodeck and your programs, which, actually can be problematic, at least in that episode. But nonetheless, there's this established idea that you have a certain amount of privacy in the holodeck. And the idea that they've designed there to be a room between the two with thin walls so that you can hear everything going on seems highly problematic to me, especially if, as I assume, the people in the other holodecks have no idea that someone is in the room in between listening to everything they're talking about. On the one hand, you have, I think it was Captain Carroll giving her like acceptance speech, which is embarrassing. And then on the other hand, you have Shax and Ta'ana having what sounds like pretty wild role playing.
Not safe, sane, and consensual. I'm telling you that.
Probably not. But stuff that you probably, a reasonable person would consider potentially an invasion of privacy. And they've designed the ship to essentially allow for this constant invasion of privacy. Although actually with at least Ta'ana, maybe she's fine with someone observing. I don't know about Shax though. And I'm assuming it's everyone has to consent to that on the ship. But yeah, it's a very weird set of designs. I do though love that he has the little action figures of everyone. It's so heartwarming and also a little sad.
I love the action figures. And MC, just before you go real quick, Jamal asked like, how does Boymes know about Mirror Archer? I'll just headcanon this real quick. I know you're the headcanon queen, MC. I'm sorry. And say that like
I already did one in the chat.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. Well, never mind. I didn't see that. That's exactly what I was going to say. So I'm going to shut up. DS9, like the DS9 crew spent so much time in the Mirror Universe. I'm sure there was a debrief at some point about Mirror Archer stealing the Intrepid or the Defiant, stealing the Defiant.
Yeah.
The Defiant. I don't really have much to say on this. It was adorable. It was cute. I do think that if there's a window polarization setting, there's probably also a computer soundproof my room, please.
Dampening, aural dampening. Yes.
I just think that Boimler was so excited about being promoted, he didn't think about either of these things. Either way. So we saw in the last episode, Rutherford.
Julian?
Yes, what I
You
do?
totally skipped over me.
I did, and I said I was going to let you go. Fuck. Hey, it's tradition. Go ahead.
Yeah, at first you tried to steal my headcanon, and then you tried to skip me. I really am
I'm
quitting.
on fire tonight.
Saying goodbye to the bunks was it we spent so much time in that little crappy hallway.
With
I kind
dude
of
in the towel and everything.
I could understand how Boimler was feeling when it's like, Denty. The whole storyline, I mean, so much of the stuff that I love from it, I'll bring up in the Easter egg hunt because just chef's kiss to all of the little references. I can understand Boimler not messing with the nacelle at first. I mean, I do think it's weird that it's not set to that normally, like that it even has a setting to be blinded by it.
It should be the default.
Boimler is so used to being shit on. That's the whole thing. Like, I mean, I think if he were thinking straight, he would know. It's like, oh yeah, you can polarize it. But he's not used to getting good things. This is Bradward Boimler. Like, good things don't happen to him, especially on the Cerritos. Like, I mean, the one time he did have good things happen when he got the promotion on the Titan, that was taken away very quickly, and it created a lot more problems with his relationship with his friends. So he's not good with it. Him still being in the bear pack might have been my favorite thing. Shax, I mean, I said Ransom has like become one of my favorite characters. Shax has been one of my favorite characters for a long time. The thinness of the walls between the two holodecks, I love that because I already had canoned that the walls and starships are very thin. I actually wrote a fic about it once. It came up, and yeah, Boimler would be the type to move into a Jeffries too.
Oh, 100%.
It totally fits his narrative. I don't understand why. I mean, I know we needed to go on this whole story with Rutherford. Boimler could have invited him to move in with him from the beginning. It's like Rutherford didn't need to have the pip because
agreed.
I mean, we already know that some ensigns have their own rooms. It's Delta Shift have like 4 of them in their own room. That happened in Room for Growth last season, and they were all ensigns. So it's not like it's not it's not allowed. It's just there's not really a lot of room. But if that room's already assigned to a lieutenant, then yeah, bring Rutherford along. And yeah, no, it was a cute storyline. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it didn't need to be.
No, it didn't. It didn't. And that's the only thing I want to say. Like, I loved it. I just thought it was fun comedy, and that's all it needed to be. Small part of me really wishes that they stuck with the Jeffries tube thing for a few episodes as a running gag, right? Like,
oh, that would have been so good.
I think that would have been really funny. And like every time we see him in it, like there'd be like a new placement of the figures, like as he'd like be trying to arrange it, or like, you know, he'd be waking up and just like some random toxin would come through because like they're flushing out the Jeffries tubes, like just making his life a living hell because as MC said, it's Brad Boimler. So yeah, no,
I'm glad they didn't, because I think that part of the mission statements of this season is going to be moving them past that now that they're lieutenants.
No,
I mean, they're still lower deckers, but they're not, being shit upon all the time.
Yeah. Speed of lower deckers. We saw in the last episode, Rutherford wasn't promoted with the rest of the team. And we learned that's because Rutherford, I think, was offered a promotion 3 times. He pulled a Will Riker and said no. Which, that's a whole nother story. And apparently when you're an engineer, like they take that hard. Like you just don't turn down engineering promotions. So we learn that he did it because he wanted to stay close to Tendi, which my heart. I ship the hell out of these two. Like I ship a lot of people, but this is like my ship. I love them. Yeah, so he wanted to stay close to Tendi, but now he's trying to one up this new Wunderkid, Ensign Livik, to get his Livik to get his promotion. And they go through again running gags of like Livik keeps doing everything better and Rutherford's getting pissed off. Keeps getting thwarted, but then all Tendi does is one, she's like, I'm your superior officer, we're gonna be friends no matter what. But then she's just like, could Rutherford have his promotion that you offered him when like he tore the hull off of the ship and saved us all? And Billups is just like, hell yeah, sure. There you go, buddy. And they all like cheer for him because he does deserve it. Out of everyone, maybe even Tendi, or at least the two of them together, he deserved a promotion ahead of the other two, right? Like even more so. Like honestly, they should both be lieutenant commanders at this point. But boom, he's got his pip. Thoughts on this whole adventure of Rutherford's missing pip, Nari?
Yeah, so I want to first agree with you, Julian, that my ship of ships is definitely Rutherford and Tendi. And so I really love how that plotline starts and finishes with Rutherford having turned out to have turned them down so that he could sleep near Tendi. It's very sweet. I do also have a special place in my heart for this plot line, in part because I think it's a common experience for a lot of women in the professional or in the workplace that women have a habit of not asking for what they deserve. We don't ask, we don't walk into our reviews and our professional interviews thinking I deserve more money, so therefore I will ask for it. It's an observed thing that women often on self-reviews review themselves more critically. And it may not necessarily be a bad thing. I think it's good to be self-critical, but if your workplace has an expectation that you will advocate for yourself, it's really important to do that. And I love, it's a little bit of the gender switched here for at least the stereotype that Tendi is the one that pushes Rutherford to advocate for himself. Well, she advocates for him, but still to ask for the thing that he clearly deserves, which it didn't even occur to him that he could do, even though he turned down 3 promotions. He thought he needed to do something more in order to deserve a 4th shot at the same promotion. So yeah, I really liked this plot line. I really do enjoy how it ends. And yeah, also Livik.
MC.
Oh my God, this plot line was so great. It tracks so much. I mean, I did think that Boimler was going to be the one that was going to have to catch up with the other ones, but having seen this, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense that Rutherford had been offered promotions before and that he had turned them down. And I have gone on record before saying that I don't ship Rutherford and Tendi, but still, what Rutherford did tracks so well. It is basically a version of what we saw in Room for Growth, which all of the lower deckers didn't want to go have one of them move into their own room, leaving the other ones behind. And they didn't realize that they could have just all gone into the same room. They need to come up together. And I believe I was talking about this last week, that Mariner is somebody who's watched her friends get promoted over her, and she kept on going through the cycle of being promoted and demoted. And so I think that all of them need to do this together and in their own time. And this is why we don't have Tendi and Rutherford as lieutenant commanders, because they want to rise in the ranks together. And I think that this is something that is totally in reach for them until they reach the rank of commander. And then somebody's going to end up ending up captain.
Tendi.
And then it'll be like the Enterprise, where we have the captain and then a bunch of commanders, which was weird. Enterprise D, like, you had too many commanders.
I think Discovery's currently got that problem too. There's 2 captains on that ship.
Yeah, that does happen on Discovery too. Livik was so funny, and again, more stuff that'll come up in the Easter eggs that just made me freaking cackle. And maybe I just really like the bridge crew, but I love Billups as well.
Yes.
I mean, we love an asexual icon, since we don't have too many of them, and his just unwavering support of Rutherford is just beautiful, and just like the absolute shade on Livik. Like, I mean, can't you promote them both? No, apparently we can only promote one of them. Livik is gonna go curl up in a fetal position with Harry Kim.
Oh shit.
It was just so great, and how it was just handled so casually. It's like, yeah, sure, here you go. He's been wanting to promote Rutherford for the longest time because Rutherford's his guy.
Yeah.
They nearly ran off together in a holodeck program.
They did.
It was beautiful, and I love Rutherford and Boimler rooming together. As much as I love like the usual breakdown of the storylines where you have the Mariner and Boimler and the Rutherford and Tendi, I really like when they mix it up, and I really like Rutherford and Boimler, and I think having them together opens up more opportunities to having them together.
Agreed.
Just as long as they don't like draw a line down the middle of their room. Like, I could see that happening, because that happens in everything where 2 people are sharing quarters together.
Yep. Before I go off on this, Wayner wrote, it was really funny. We were talking about the holodecks and the rooms wrote, right? He wrote, at least Quark probably keeps his holodecks locked. Uh, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
I mean, the Hollow Suites were absolutely, those were fuck machines. Like, they never made a secret of that.
And they never got cleaned.
Yeah,
No, I don't think anybody was taking that waste out.
No, I mean, with Rom, like, Quark was definitely making Rom do that.
Probably
like,
making Rom do it. Yeah.
I did want to agree that he probably kept the doors locked in part so that law enforcement couldn't get in time to see what was happening.
Oh no. Oh man.
I mean, like, here's the thing. On Starfleet vessels, we've had like multiple people go into other people's holodeck things. That's what happens in Hollow Pursuits. They go into Barclay's one. But in Deep Space Nine, they specifically say that going into somebody else's Hollow Suite program is illegal.
Yep.
So I think it's illegal on Deep Space Nine, but it's not like a Federation law.
Interesting.
Interesting.
MC coming up with some law. I like it.
I love it.
Yep. God, we went on a completely different topic, and now I don't know what we're talking about. I love these two. That's what we're talking about. Livick. and then Rutherford and Tendi. That was so good at the end. Listen, I had I can't think of the word right now, but I knew Rutherford was going to get promoted in the next episode. It's not because I watched it. It's just because it's Rutherford. It's Rutherford. They weren't going to let him be the lone ensign, right? There's a reason why they did this, and this was the perfect episode to show us. And Tendi being the reason, these two, whether they end up really together or not, are like BFFs, like the dictionary definition of best friends forever, right? And I adore them. Let's talk about the end of Tuvix and the beginning of my favorite episode title. I have no bones yet. I must flee. It ends with Tuvix ends with a mysterious ship destroying a Klingon vessel, and then this one begins with a Romulan ship. Those Romulans were hilarious. Like, no, you want to dispatch him? Well, I'm already planning to dispatch him.
So disappointed Giraffe isn't here right now to comment on the Romulans.
I texted her to see if she was coming. I have not gotten a reply, which means I'm thinking she's stuck at work.
Probably.
So, thoughts on the mysterious ship. What could it be, Nari?
I really don't know about the ship, and I really want to know what you guys think, but I did have thoughts about those scenes, which were, I loved the lower decks on both of those. I'm kind of sad that they got blown up, because I think those would have made for really great B stories in other episodes, and I want to see more of them. Like the idea that instead of cleaning out the holodeck waste, they have to clean up what's left after the torture.
Oh my god, the Riemanns. Riemann juice, it never really comes out.
And then on the Klingon ship, sharpening your spear. A spear is a coward's weapon. I drew a foe at a distance. It was so good. Oh, and then my favorite line, I think, from the Romulan lower decks, which was, you wouldn't know a scheme from a conspiracy. It's so great. I really want a hat tip to the writers, because again, these are such short scenes. They're mostly just setting up for the ships to get blown up, but at least they really drew me in and made me want to see more of those characters. Too bad they're gone, but maybe there'll be more lower decks on other ships in the future. I'm really curious what you guys think, though, because like the ship is super mysterious, at least to me, and I'm not sure if I'm like missing potentially a little bit of a deep cut for what it could be referencing.
I have a theory, but I'm gonna let MC go first.
Because you also know that I have a theory.
Turn. Well, because it's your turn and you have a theory.
Yeah.
That's not bunnies.
Well, first to comment on Jamal in the chat said that the Riemanns should have had green blood or juice. They said juice specifically. They didn't say that it was blood, so we have no idea what kind of fluid that actually was.
That could be like Riemann bone marrow. Like,
yeah, it does not have to be green. We don't know what it was. It was just random juice. So. Just to put that, I hope people who are listening to this aren't eating or anything. I loved this. I mean, I loved Voyager when we got introduced to the lower decks on other ships, which of course we get a visit to in the premiere. That is the ship that we see first and gets destroyed. And I think it was when I was watching it with you that I said, "Oh, they're not on there.
That's
Like,
right. Yep.
They're being teleported out." I really need to. I really need to put
more.
I really need to put that out there because Jessie Gender also made that prediction in her video, and I was like, I said that 2 weeks ago. I copy a lot of things that Jessie does, but I copy a lot of things that Jessie does, but this is something that we both came up independent of each other. So yeah, and I think especially since it's somebody that we already knew, I do think that it gives you a jarring sensation of somebody that you're familiar with being blown up. But I don't think that they're blowing them up. It doesn't feel Lower Decks to me.
Yeah.
To blow these two up like in sequential episodes, which this is if this is going to be the running plot of the season, that people are going to get blown up. I don't think that they're going to have like this much mass murder.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Just my thoughts on it, but you have your own theory.
I do, and I'm gonna stick by it, even though it is so far fetched and out there.
I think I remember what this is.
I have no idea where the people are going and if they're getting destroyed or not, but I keep going back to the shape of this vessel, and it is the shape of an NX-01 shuttle pod, and I keep looking at them together and I'm like, it's the same shape. I'm not going to say it's Voyager, but I think this is like a Voyagered out NX-01 shuttle pod for whatever reason.
Trip Tucker's looking for revenge.
Trip Tucker's back from the dead and he's taking everybody down with him. Anyway, it's an NX-01 shuttle pod. That's what I got right now, and I'm sticking by it. Yeah. Any other thoughts on these two? We will get to final thoughts, but anything I may have missed before we get to those? Good. MC, do you think you can handle Tara's limerick, or would you like me to do it? Up to you.
Sure, I can try to do it.
Okay.
I have no bones, yet I must flee. A menagerie hosts a cutie known as Moopsy, plus a pair of wayward humans. Oopsie. Our little cue pie's got a thirst for the ossified. Your insides will swiftly be liquefied. Beware the siren call of the sugar-coated Moopsy.
That's
Tara,
really wonderful.
That was delightful. Did you see the spear floating in space? No, I have to look for that again. Maggie Light asks in the chat. Oh, that's cool. That's
but
really
it doesn't,
cool.
Does not negate, I think, the theory that the people are alive.
No,
yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe organic matter got like teleported somewhere and everything else just got destroyed.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
They are doing like a heavy hold on the camera of like
where like
the
everything's
pieces,
like
the
going
specific
blinding.
but like the specific pieces of hull floating, right? Like this is a Klingon vessel, this is a Romulan vessel. This isn't a spoiler because we see it in the trailer. Like this is a logo of another ship that gets destroyed in another episode. I think they're doing that for a reason. So we'll see. Your guys' final thoughts on the 2-episode premiere of Lower Decks. Nari.
Yeah, I really loved it. I think that's not a secret at this point. The Voyager episode and also the Moopsy episode, I think just more evidence that this show is made by people that really love and understand Star Trek. Like as you pointed out, Julian, just the amazing work that was done to render Voyager in simultaneously such high fidelity, but in animated form was really wonderful. I don't understand how you can do that if you didn't really love Voyager, or at least have the respect to like really research it and watch a bunch of episodes. So that really showed. And for the Moopsy episode, for the Menagerie as well, I really loved, not only is Moopsy adorable, but the attention to detail when it came to, for example, there's like one short scene where you see things through Moopsy's eyes.
Yes.
And it's got like the rainbow, and it's like such a hilarious parody of like what you would see through Predator's eyes or the alien's eyes or something. But I loved it. And so I think that all of these little bits of attention to detail, in addition to moving these characters forward and progressing them in really great ways, but still coming up with these really good stories to weave with them, is both challenging and why I love this show.
Awesome. Nice. MC?
I love Lower Decks so much. This is the first time I've gotten to review this with you guys. And just people are going to hear me gushing about it week after week because I think Lower Decks might be my favorite of the modern Star Treks. We had a Deep Space Nine episode. We have had lots of references to TOS, plus we also had the Strange New World crossover. It's obviously so heavily steeped in TNG. And now with the Voyager episode. Enterprise episode when?
Yes.
Yes. This is next.
If my headcanon is right, we'll see.
Maybe. Or next season, let's go see the NX-01 refit at the Fleet Museum. I love these episodes so much. I did not love the premiere of season 3. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't it didn't really get me pumped. This one did.
Yeah.
And then the next one did. It is so, I love that they've moved the characters on, not just with the promotions, but with their character arcs. And as I've heard through this episode, I love things that they're doing with the bridge crew. Everybody is maturing into, everybody started out as parodies of Starfleet archetypes, and the kind of lesser versions of them. They are now evolving to just plain be those archetypes, and I'm living to see that. I want to see these guys become the heroes that the Enterprise D crew, the Enterprise, No Dash or whatever.
Not if you ask Liam Shaw.
I want to see that happen to them. Yeah. And I think that we're starting to get that. And this is just fun. Lower Decks is one of the things that I think we get between 5 to 10 screeners for. Lower Decks is the one that I can absolutely max out on.
Yeah, right. I couldn't put it better myself from both of you. It's no secret, like MC just said, we got screeners. They let us do a week ahead, a spoiler-free embargo. Basically, we get 8 of the 10 episodes. I already said in that review, you can go read on the Strange New Pod blog. This is my favorite season of Lower Decks so far. And what's amazing about that is, had I not seen what's coming up, just watching these two, these are 2 of my favorite episodes of the show. This is just such an amazing way to start the season. From the word go, MC's absolutely right. I think all of us on our pod last year were just kind of on the premiere of season 3, because it was so fast and it resolved the Carol thing too quickly. But this was just back to the real fun and the hard laughs and fucking Moopsy. Moopsy. This is just such an amazing season so far. And I mean, I think our mailbag coming up is all praise, which is a great sign, right? Mike McMahon and his whole entire writing team, his animation team, they bring Star Trek to life in such a unique, fun, and cool way. I look forward to the because we listen. There's a little bit of specialness that gets taken away from us having access to be able to put our shows together, right? Because we see them ahead of time, and then, but with Lower Decks, I still get excited the next week for the episode. I mean, I did for Picard too, but I'm a TNG baby, so but I can't wait to watch it on Paramount Plus too. The first thing I did this morning after I dropped the kids off was put these episodes on, and one of the reasons I love doing that is writing out the Easter egg hunt. What did they pull this time? What did we maybe miss? Lower Decks is just pure Star Trek fun, and what a way to start this season. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Speaking of Easter eggs, I have a ridiculously long list, but as always, I will let you two go first. So if you have Easter eggs, put them out, and I will try and cross them off my list. Who's got Easter eggs?
Okay. First of all, I mean, I'm just gonna jump to the second episode right away.
Go ahead.
The whole plot with Moopsy is a homage to, I believe it's the Eye of the Beholder episode of the animated series, where we do have humans get stuck in a zoo with like weird creatures. And also everything Boimler owns.
Yes.
We have, Spock from Wrath of Khan, we have Mirrorverse Archer.
First contact data.
First contact data. The Ad Astra per Aspera poster. Nearly cried. Nearly cried. So glad they brought that back. And my absolute favorite was the Tucker tubes.
Yeah. Yes.
We never knew what those things did. We still don't know what those things did, but we know what they're called now and fucking love it.
Yep. Chris in the chat real quick, Nari, anyone notice the ball with the 3 cobras from Q and Encounter at Farpoint? Absolutely. Yes, we did.
Yes, I did notice that, and I was like, I know that from somewhere. Where is that? Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and since we can ask the chat things, I just wanted to ask: does anyone know who voices Moopsy?
Yes, we've been wondering since before we started recording. If you know who voiced Moopsy, please let us know in the chat. We're dying to know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I mean, like, there's just so much Voyager stuff. It's like there's like the avalanche of Voyager stuff. Like,
yeah, all
Oh
the
my
different
God.
like bowls of food
Yes.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Neelix's stew smelling and the officer reacting to it. It's so good. Nari,
and the fact that we
sorry,
saw like everyone in. They had statues of everybody. They're all of their uniforms. They even have Neelix's, even though presumably he took all of his clothes with him when he left the ship. So maybe they had to replicate it because they don't care that much about accuracy.
It's not Bonnie Gordon, and we would know, right? I feel like we would know. Though I do wonder. The computer of Voyager sounded a lot like Bonnie. We know that she's the voice of the protostar. She hasn't done the computer of Lower Decks, but that sounded like her. I wonder if I have to go back and watch the credits.
I still think Moopsy voiced himself.
You think it? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Moopsy's out there looking for bones to suck.
Moopsy is like Chopper from Star Wars Rebels. They voice themselves because nobody else can voice them.
True. Nari, did you have any Easter eggs that you picked up?
I don't think I have any that you
No,
guys
that's
didn't
okay.
already notice.
That's okay. That's all right.
But if someone in the chat wants to throw one in, I would
Yeah.
love that.
So far we just have the cobras. Oh no, sorry. Jamal wrote this is very true. The humans in the menagerie were wearing the outfits from the enhanced kids in Unnatural Selection in TNG, the one where Pulaski gets all old. Those
Oh,
are the outfits. I
wow.
actually thought those are the kids, like those are the humans.
Those uniforms have gotten around.
They have gotten around.
The lady looked a lot like Layla Kalomi.
Yeah, true.
Oh, the Spock glasses. From there is there in Truth No Beauty.
Yep.
One of my favorite episodes. And I will eventually make those. That's on my cosplay list.
Nice. Good. I have some more. We already talked about the whale probe. Voyager itself is a freaking Easter egg. Talked about Neelix's stew and Harry's pip, Neelix's cheese, Fairhaven clowns, Chaotica, lizard babies, Mirror Universe. So we talked about all. There is a living, because we always talk about seeing the koala. There's a living koala in the menagerie.
Ooh.
Yes. And I wondered if it is the embodiment of the great koala in the sky.
I actually apologize. I really should have watched closer with the Menagerie to see if they matched the one from the Menagerie episodes of TAS, because I bet you they did sneak some in there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Livik and Rutherford is Jerry and Newman.
Yeah.
100%, right, from Seinfeld. We already talked about the snakes, Spock goggles. Yeah, so and most of these we talked about. I wrote the guy, the officer saying I should have been an outpost scientist as an Easter egg, and I felt like that was a reference to something, but it's slipping my mind now.
It's almost a reference to Boimler.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, when he's like, yeah, I should be just been an outpost scientist, and somebody will find my log with me dead and frozen or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like it has to be a callback to original series, right?
Yeah. The DS9 model that Rutherford and Tendi were going to start building after they made their Cerritos, that's done, and it was in Rutherford's stuff when they're moving in together. And then Rutherford's project, when he's like, if you see any sparks, just stamp them out. That project is Wesley's project, his portable tractor beam from season 1 of TNG.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So those are the ones I picked up. Chat, let us know if there's any that we missed. I'm sure there were a few more Voyager ones. For sure. The Seven's Alcos. Oh, did you see at the beginning when the dude is carrying the mannequin
Her
Seven?
thing falls
her
off.
ocular implant, it falls off. And the dude's
Which
like,
could be a reference to Picard season 2.
It could. Yep. So many. It was a reference to Boimler snapping at the recruiting booth as well. Yeah, it could be for sure. Let's get...
Of course, we also do have that Voyager ends up in the Fleet Museum in Picard season 3, which we're now seeing the origin of that.
Indeed, we are.
Sorry, I just thought of another one.
Good.
Boimler has the Captain Freeman Day banner in his box of stuff.
Yes, he does. He also has a Cerritos plate, which I'm gonna take a gander and say that Paramount's gonna put for sale.
Probably.
That looked like product placement to me. So Easter eggs, good.
But they're gonna have this Cerritos plate before the Moopsy plush?
Probably, unfortunately.
I mean, we're just assuming that they're not coming up with a Moopsy plush. I mean, no, but let's face it, I'm crazy, guys.
Yeah, it's true. Let's get into the subspace to pull and mailbag.
Hailing frequencies open.
Nari, as our guest, can you read our to pull, please?
Absolutely. So we asked Trek Twitter what they thought about the 2-episode premiere of Lower Decks. This is what you guys had to say. 66% said, oopsie. 24% said, we get to do stuff on Voyager. 4% said, rather eat Neelix cheese. And 6% said, stick me in the menagerie.
So high praise. Lots of high praise.
Yes.
That's good. Don't stick me in the menagerie, please. I don't want to be in there. Let's do some mailbag. MC, can you take Riker tattoos, please?
Just as soon as I throw in this other Easter egg, Mariner calls it Voy.
Are
at
you
one point.
kidding me?
She does.
She does. And now I will read Chris's. What an amazing way to start the new season. The endless fun on Voyager with Borg lizard babies and transporter shenanigans. The storyline that is so infamous, most won't touch it with a 10-foot Klingon spear. Then we get human zoos and Moopsy. How Lower Decks keeps topping their last epic character is purely amazing. Move over third act knick-knack. It's the Moopsy show now. I'm so happy we have people making Star Trek for the fans that are as insane as us. Lower Decks, Lower Decks, Lower Decks.
Awesome. I will take CBF's. CBF wrote, the first episode of Lower Decks was a lot of fun. So much obscure Voyager references packed into 25 minutes. They went there with all the most notorious moments. This one had it all. Cheesy, amphibious, macro viral. Love it. The second episode was my favorite. Moopsy was a riot. I was laughing uncontrollably at 1 a.m. last night, and poor Boim's getting the worst room on the ship. So funny. Getting to see the Lower Deckers from across the galaxy complaining about their jobs before getting blasted by a mysterious vessel is a brilliant recurring bit, and I hope we get to see many more of these with the most annoying species in the galaxy: Ferengi, Cardassians, Xindi, Borg, Tholians, and perhaps even the Shellyak. Very nice. Thank you for that, CBF. Nari, can you take Tara's, please?
Yes, is this the same Tara that does
yes,
limericks?
The limericks.
Oh,
yes.
wonderful. Oh, Voyager, my love, I felt like Mariner. We get to do stuff on Voyager? Borgified threshold lizard.
That made the whole episode, honestly. Like, they were just amazing. MC with NYRL lights, please.
NY Rawlite wrote, these 2 episodes reinforce why Lower Decks is my favorite of the Kurtzman era Trek shows. Never in my wildest imagination would lizard babies, Chaotica, and Michael Sullivan appear together, and it
babies?
still makes sense. Talin is living up to my expectations as being a great addition to the show. As for Dr. Tiana, she has got done warped holodeck fantasies. What happens in the holodeck stays in the holodeck unless you're in the room next door.
And you're Geordie and you forgot to, delete your browser history. Oh boy. I will take it home with Jay Woodman's I'm lost for words and blown away by the absolute love letter that this season has started out with. That's it. That's the point. Send the subspace message, hit replay, and look for a Moopsy plushie replicator pattern to download for my quarters. Love it. And speaking of Jay Woodman, I've been thinking about this since we started the pod. And I'm someone who really likes multiple winners. And since Jay Woodman was a repeat winner, I think we're going to give away a second copy of Lower Decks on Blu-ray season 3. I still have the wheel. We're going to do a second drawing. Surprise. Before we wrap, let's do this.
And it'll be Jay Woodman again.
And congratulations, Wayner. Wayner, you win a copy of Lower Deck Season 3 along with Jay Woodman. Congratulations. 2 of those going out, as well as a bunch of stickers. We can't wait to get to those to you. That's going to do it for this one. Before we go, Nari, it was a blast. We would love you to plug away. Where can people find you? What do you have going on?
I am a member of the Legal Geeks. There is, in fact, a website for the Legal Geeks. We often appear at different cons. I was actually on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con just a couple months ago to talk about the legal issues presented by some fun Marvel movies. It's very rare that you get handed patent law on a platter like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 did for me. So it's pretty fun. So hopefully I will see you guys again for a future podcast because I am so thrilled to be here. It's so much fun. And hopefully I will see other folks and maybe you guys too at some future convention.
Yes, we would love to meet in actual person at some point. That would be great. We always love having you on. So thank you. And again, for short notice, I will say that. That's it. We actually managed to do that for 2 episodes in really good time. I'm proud of us. Round of applause. Pat yourselves on the back. That's going to do it. We will be back next week, 1 with our Picard Season 3 review. It is our final review of Picard ever. That's a little sad. And then episode 3. Sorry, I keep saying 3 like we're on Season 3. We're on Season 4. 403 of Lower Decks. So for Nari, for MC, I am Julian. I will say live long and prosper. I will also leave it in the words of our awesome communications officer aboard the Enterprise.
You fly safe out there.
We will see you next week. Good night.